relationships that do not start off well will fail, versus people can change the way they act. I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to take a show of hands, but this first statement is part of a nexus of beliefs that people have that have been studied a great deal, especially in college students, which gets at the idea that some people think that relationships are kind of fixed. A relationship either is good or it isn't. And either you're destined to be together, you found your soulmate, or you're not destined to be together. And that's a language that I think some of us are at least familiar with, which is, you know what? It's just not meant to be. I'm not feeling it. This relationship just ain't working because it's not meant to be. All of those ideas are consistent with sort of a network of beliefs which are called implicit theories of relationships. What makes it an implicit theory is we're not talking about some idea that people have that they've written down. It's not like Darwin said, oh, here's my theory of relationships. I mean, I have a theory of relationships that I've written down, but most people haven't. It's implicit. It's a theory that people have in their heads even though they haven't articulated it explicitly. And one theory is the theory that relationships are these fixed entities that either work or they don't. And there are people who will endorse this theory, who will say, I agree with that. A second theory is a theory that people can change and that relationships can change if you work hard enough. So the second sort of network of beliefs is the idea that relationships need work, and with work, you can make them successful. You can get someone to change if you don't like their behavior through a lot of hard work, therapy, communication, or what have you. You see the difference. It sort of says relationships are fixed, relationships are malleable. Relationships are fated, relationships are something you work on. And a fellow by the name of C. Raymond Nee, he goes by Chip, if you ever meet him. He's at the University of Houston, and he's a friend of mine, and he studies this. He measures these, and how much people endorse these two theories. And what he finds is that the extent to which you believe one of these theories versus the other has a lot of implications for how you react to what goes on in the relationship. Much the way we've been talking for quite a few minutes now. So for example, he asks a question, how important are your perceptions of your partner's personality to your satisfaction? So what he asks, what he does is brings people into a room, asks people, tell me about your partner. Tell me about your partner's strengths, weaknesses. Tell me about your partner's character. And most people, if you ask them, will say, oh, my partner has many, many strengths if they're in a happy relationship, and also some weaknesses. And some people see more weaknesses than others. But the question is, how important are those perceptions to your feelings of satisfaction in the relationship? And what he finds is, it depends on your theory. If you think that people can change, that people can grow and change and evolve, then your perceptions of your partner's personality are less linked to your satisfaction in the relationship. Because like, oh, my partner has some flaws, but they're growing. They're changing, we can work on it. It's still a good relationship. On the other hand, if you think people can't change, people are people. People don't change, they are who they are. In that case, and for those people, perceptions of partner's personality were strongly linked to relationship satisfaction. The belief changed the relationship between your experience and your relationship satisfaction. Chip did another study. How much is initial satisfaction linked to relationship longevity? This is an interesting question. The question he asked here, to put another way, is when the relationship begins, or at the beginning of this is college dating relationships, how important is satisfaction? Now, we know that in general, more people who are more satisfied in a relationship stay together longer, in general. But what he found was that that relationship, the relationship between how happy you are at the beginning of the relationship and how long the relationship stays together, that association is shaped by people's theories of relationships. If you believe that relationships are fated. Our relationships are a matter of chemistry and fate, and they either work or they don't, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you believe that, then your initial satisfaction is powerfully linked to how long the relationship stays together. If you're happy, you're like, oh, this is it, fate, soulmate time, and you stay together. Those people who believe in that sort of fixed fate theory, if you're not happy at the beginning, you get out quickly. You're like, this isn't working, it's never going to work. In contrast, people who believe that relationships are a function of working at it, for them, this relationship is much weaker. If you believe that a relationship can grow, can evolve, that people can change, and that you can improve your relationship through the effort that you put into your relationship, if you agree relationships take work, then your initial satisfaction is less strongly associated with how long the relationship ends. Because you might say, even if we're not so happy now, we can get better. We can work it out. So this is another example of this sort of general principle that carries us a lot. It carries us a long way, this principle. To understand both our own relationships, the relationships of our partners, or the reactions of our partners, and other people's relationships. You'll see friends who are in relationships that you think suck. Let me tell you what's going to happen also, which is that you're going to see your friends marrying people of whom you do not approve. How can that be? How is it that your friends are failing to observe that the people that they are happily marrying are totally unsuitable when it seems so clear to you? Well, one answer to that question is that you are applying different knowledge than your friend is. You're comparing that behavior to your own standard. Your friend is comparing those behaviors to a different standard. So this process, this ideal standards model way of thinking comes up a lot.